You ruined her wedding just by showing up. My name is Delaney Grace. And from wherever you're watching this, tell me in comments, have you ever been treated like trash by the very people you built up? My mother's whisper was sharp enough to slice through my ribs. Her eyes flicked down my dress like it personally offended her. A simple navy sheath, no cleavage, no glitter. Just enough not to look homeless. But in her mind, I may as well have worn a trash bag. Behind her, my sister Madison adjusted her diamond hairpiece and gave me a smirk. No one wants a failure in the photos, she said with a shrug. The lace of her custom gown shimmered under the chandeliers. The chandeliers I paid for. But of course no one knew that. That was the point. Security, my father called over his shoulder, not even looking at me. Get her out before she embarrasses us. As if I hadn't spent the last 9 months wiring money from my savings to cover every bill. Venue, flowers, open bar, valet parking, and that overpriced Michelin chef she just had to have. I hadn't bought a new pair of shoes in a year. I sold my laptop. I took on night shifts after my full-time job. But none of that mattered. Because I didn't come from a perfect marriage or own a condo, or bring someone with a jawline to show off in pictures. I was the divorced daughter. The family embarrassment. The invisible one, until they needed a check. So when security brushed past the line of manicured guests and walked toward me, I didn't fight. I didn't argue. I simply leaned into the DJ booth and whispered, 10 minutes. Just like we rehearsed. Then I smiled, turned, and walked out through the tall glass doors like I had nothing left to lose. 10 minutes later, the lights would go out. The mic would die mid-toast. The screen would light up with a video they prayed no one would ever see. But for now, let them bask in their cruelty a little longer. They'd earned every flicker of the storm that was coming. And I'd waited a lifetime to press play. The dress code said black tie. But no one mentioned Bulletproof Heart. I stood outside the venue, heels sinking into the manicured grass, listening to my own heartbeat and the faint thump of bass through the ballroom walls. My hands trembled, but not from nerves, from clarity. I wasn't just the forgotten daughter anymore. I was the architect of their undoing. You see, 9 months ago my sister called sobbing. Delaney, Mom says we can't afford the wedding I want. Please. I know you're good with money. I was in a studio apartment with water stains on the ceiling. She was engaged to a man who drove a Tesla. I said yes. Because she was my little sister. Because our dad never looked at me the way he looked at her, with pride. Because maybe, if I did this one thing they'd see me. I opened my savings. Every last dollar. I even borrowed against my retirement fund, silently praying I'd find a way to pay it back before it wrecked my credit. I never told anyone. Not even my best friend Harper, who warned me years ago, you're the family wallet, not the daughter. Stop bleeding for people who feed on your silence. But I couldn't help it. I watched them shop for dresses I paid for, sip champagne I couldn't afford, plan photo ops for memories that wouldn't include me. They didn't invite me to the bridal shower. Didn't list me in the wedding program. And when I asked why, Madison giggled and said, well, you didn't really need to be in the spotlight, right? Right. So I made a decision. I went to every vendor, DJ, caterer, lighting, AV team, and restructured the contracts under my name. Cost me extra. But it gave me power. One clause. One signature. And everything they took for granted would vanish. On cue. That night, I packed a USB drive with 27 years of family rot. Photos. Texts. A voicemail from my father saying, let her come if she insists, but no photos. She's not the kind of daughter we show off. The kind of daughter they show off. Well, I'm the kind they regret crossing. And regret was about to be served at table 1. Inside, the ballroom glowed like a movie set. Golden chandeliers. Silk table runners. An 8-tier cake sat under custom lighting like a crown jewel. All of it, mine. Paid for by the failure they kicked out like trash. I watched through the tinted windows from my car, parked just across the lawn. The same security guard who escorted me out now smiled politely at arriving guests, clueless that he'd just walked past the matchstick to a fire. Then I saw her, Madison, floating across the marble floor like royalty, clutching a crystal flute of champagne. Her new husband beside her, face pink with liquor and pride. Dad was making a toast. Cue the DJ. Cue the collapse. 10 minutes. But before we get there, you need to understand what kind of people we're dealing with. The last time I needed help, really needed it, was when my apartment flooded in the middle of January. Pipes burst. Ceiling collapsed. Called my parents. My mother sighed and said, "Well, you're the one who chose that part of town." My dad didn't answer at all. Madison texted a week later. "Sorry things suck. Hope it gets better, hugs and kisses." That was it. No one offered a dime. No one asked if I needed somewhere to stay. I slept in my car for 3 nights before a coworker found out. But when Madison's venue canceled 2 months before her wedding, suddenly I was the responsible one. The one we can trust. And like a fool with a bleeding heart I stepped in. Until I saw the seating chart. They put me at table 19. Next to the bathroom. Behind a pillar. Labeled, "Family Friend Delaney." Not even my name. Just a vague placeholder. Like I didn't even belong to them. I stared at that chart for 10 minutes. Then I walked outside. Called the DJ. And said 6 words. "Do you remember the backup plan?" He didn't even hesitate. "Yes. Just say the word." The word was coming. But first, let them toast. Let my father tell that room how proud he was of his beautiful, accomplished daughter. Let Madison bask in the lie of being loved unconditionally. Because in 60 seconds, the lights would cut. The mic would die. And everything they built on my back would collapse in front of their perfect little audience. And for once, I'd be seen. The microphone squealed, then silence. Dad tapped it once. Twice. Nothing. The lights flickered above the head table like a dying heartbeat. Gasps rippled through the room. The pianist stopped mid-chord. And then the projector whirred to life. White light cut across the room, scattering on champagne glasses and designer gowns. On screen, a home video. No title. No intro. Just a 6-year-old me. Alone at a birthday party no one came to. "Mom, is Madison coming?" My tiny voice cracked. The camera shook as my mother sighed. "She's busy, Delaney. Let's just get this over with." The video played without mercy. Scene after scene. Me clutching handmade cards for holidays I was forgotten in. Me scraping burned toast while Madison opened room service breakfasts. Me hearing my father's voicemail again. "She's not the kind of daughter we show off." Gasps turned into whispers. Whispers into stares. The wedding planner ran to the booth, but the DJ was gone. He'd packed up the minute the video began, just like I paid him to. The projector kept rolling. Screenshots of texts Madison sent her friends. "My sister's life is depressing AF. She looks like a before photo. Honestly, I hope she doesn't come." The room darkened again, this time with silence. No lights. No music. No dinner. Because the caterer had already pulled the plug. Another call I'd made weeks ago. One clause. Payment retractable if client insults benefactor. And guess what? Calling me a failure on tape qualified. I watched from the lot as guests began to rise in confusion. Some checked their phones. Some just left. And Madison? She stood frozen, mouth open, face drained of all color. Like the spotlight she built her world around had just turned. He looked for Mom. Mom looked for Dad. Dad looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. They scanned the crowd, the panic rising in their perfect posture. And that's when they realized. I wasn't in the room. I was never meant to be in the room. I was the foundation they walked on. And now I was gone. And everything was cracking beneath them. I didn't need to hear the chaos to feel it. Panic echoes in energy, not sound. And inside that ballroom, energy was unraveling like a cheap ribbon. I sat quietly in my car, engine off. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat. Text after text. "Madison, what the hell did you do? Well, you ruined her day. Are you proud of yourself? Dad, fix this. Now. Fix this. You don't fix rot by painting over it. You burn the whole house down and start again." A security guard, not the same one, emerged from the building, scanning the lawn like he was looking for a ghost. He wouldn't find me. I'd already vanished. But before I disappeared completely, I sent one final message. To the entire guest list. I'd gotten access through the wedding planner's portal. Easy when you're the one who paid her retainer. The email subject line was simple. Where your money really went. Inside. A PDF of all the invoices I personally paid. A breakdown of every vendor contract in my name. The signed clause giving me full cancellation rights. And finally, a personal note. To everyone who wondered why the wedding stopped. It didn't. It was finished long before today. I just let them taste the finale. Then I turned off my phone. Back inside, people were standing now, clutching coats, shaking heads. The illusion was crumbling faster than mascara on Madison's cheeks. I imagined her trying to explain to her new in-laws why the wedding feast vanished. Why there was no DJ, no lights, no music, no staff. Why her sister, the nobody she tried to erase, had pulled the string on the entire production. Poetic, really. They told me I didn't belong in the pictures. But now, no one would forget my face. There would be no Instagram perfect post. No just married reels. Only whispers. She paid for the whole thing and they kicked her out? She's the sister? Wait, why would they treat her like that? And somewhere in the corner of her new husband's mind, a seed was planted. Small and silent but deadly. Who is this woman, really? Let her spend her honeymoon trying to answer that. By midnight the ballroom was empty. A few half-drunk cousins wandered the parking lot, murmuring into phones trying to call Ubers that wouldn't come, because even the valet company had packed up. I paid them extra for the early exit clause. Let them walk in their heels. Let the night blister. Madison tried to call me 12 times. I didn't pick up. But I saved every voicemail. You psychopath. Do you think this makes you look good? Do you have any idea what you've done? Mom is crying. Dad said he might have a heart attack. That last one almost made me laugh. But no. Let me not be cruel. Not like them. I just wanted the truth to stand in the middle of that ballroom, naked and unflinching. The truth that for years they told themselves a story. That I was a burden. That I didn't fit. That I should be quiet, grateful and small. But I never asked to be bigger than them. I just stopped apologizing for existing. The next morning the headlines weren't in newspapers. But they were all over Facebook. Cousins, friends, neighbors. Everyone had something to say. I was at Madison's wedding. It was wild. Everything shut off mid-toast. Turns out her sister paid for it and they kicked her out. What a joke. I always knew something was off with that family. And then came the photos. One by one, guests posted the blurry screenshots of my childhood from the projector. My face at 5, 10, 15, searching for love I never got. The images Madison never expected the world to see. But the world was seeing now. I got a message from my aunt who hadn't spoken to me in years. It said, "Delaney, I'm sorry. I never knew." Another from a former teacher. "Proud of you for standing up." The tide was turning. Not just against them but toward me. And it felt strange. Not joyful. Not victorious. Just quiet. Like a fever breaking after long sickness. Because when your whole life has been a performance to earn love, and you finally drop the act, you don't feel like a hero. You feel free. And freedom, my God, is louder than applause. I stayed in my apartment for the next few days. No calls. No explanations. No social media. Just silence. Funny how loud peace can be when you've lived in noise your whole life. Madison's wedding photos never surfaced. No curated albums. No viral Mr. and Mrs. hashtags. Only one tagged post from a guest who wrote, "When the sister you kicked out turns out to be the one who paid for your whole fairy tale. Oof." Mom sent me a final message on the 4th day. "Your little stunt made us look like fools. You burned the bridge, Delaney. Don't ever come crawling back." I didn't reply. You can't crawl back to a place that was never home. But I did save the message, printed it even, and pinned it next to a note I'd written to myself years ago. Someday they'll hear me. The best part? They didn't just hear me. They felt me. Every guest. Every vendor. Every person they tried to impress. They felt my silence louder than their shame. Word started getting around. A cousin called me to ask if I'd consult on her event. She said she never realized I was that organized, that sharp. An old college friend messaged, "Didn't know you had that in you." Respect. I started getting offers. Event planning. Vendor negotiations. Private consulting. Turns out managing a $45,000 wedding alone, and flipping it into poetic justice, made a pretty impressive resume. That's when it hit me. All those years of being the afterthought. Of sitting in corners, budgeting, fixing things behind the scenes. They weren't wasted. They were training. I built my own business out of their insults. Delaney Rose Events. The silent killer of bad contracts and worse families. And people started coming to me not because they pitied me, but because they trusted me. I became the girl who wouldn't flinch, who knew every clause in a 60-page vendor contract, who could smile in your face while holding the power to end the lights, the mic, and the music. They made me feel invisible. So I made myself unforgettable. 3 weeks after the wedding imploded, I walked into a coffee shop not far from my old childhood home. It was early, quiet, the kind of place you go to think not to be seen. But I was seen. The barista did a double take when I ordered. "You're the sister from that wedding, right?" she asked, careful but curious. I didn't flinch. I just nodded. She smiled almost reverently. "I saw the video. You weren't even in the photos, but you ran the whole thing. That was badass." I smiled back. Not smug. Not proud. Just at peace. Outside the world kept spinning, but mine had shifted. Not because I'd burned everything down, but because I'd stopped begging people to keep me warm while I froze. Later that day my phone buzzed with a new notification. A direct message from Madison. I stared at it for a long time. No subject. No emojis. Just this. "I don't even know who you are anymore." And that was the first honest thing she'd ever said to me. Because she didn't. None of them did. They never tried. To them I was just the quiet one. The helper. The filler in family portraits. The one who made space but never took it. They didn't know the woman who stayed up late reading vendor fine print. The woman who built emergency budgets from scraps. The woman who cried in her car after writing the final check, because she'd used her own savings, just so they could have one damn day of joy. They didn't know me. Because they never asked. No. Now they never would. I didn't open the message. I didn't reply. I archived it, not out of anger but closure. Some things deserve silence. Instead I pulled out my notebook, the same one I'd used to plan every beat of that wedding, and wrote 3 things down. 1. I forgive them. 2. I do not need them. 3. I am not coming back. Because forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it means walking away without a limp. I started getting booked out months in advance. People loved my precision, my calm, my ability to make things beautiful, even when things broke. They didn't know that skill came from surviving a family where I had to smile while bleeding. But it didn't matter. I had clients who looked me in the eye. People who paid on time. People who said thank you and meant it. Slowly, I realized something. I had become the woman I used to pretend to be at family dinners. The confident one. The woman with a plan. The one who didn't need a seat at their table. Because she'd already built her own. One night I got a voicemail from my dad. His voice was lower than usual. "Tired. Your mom's not talking to anyone. Madison's marriage is already rocky. I don't know if you'll ever forgive us, but I just wanted to say, you were right. You were always right." I didn't call him back. Not because I hated him, but because I finally loved me. And you don't go back to a house that locked you out. When you found a key to your own kingdom. So if you've ever been told to shrink, if they laughed when you spoke up, or punished you for not disappearing quietly, let them. Let them tell their story. And then, like I did, build your own. Brick by brick. Scar by scar. Until one day, they're sitting in the dark, searching for the light. And you're the only one who ever knew where the switch was.